Meanwhile, at Manage Comics, coming to you from a secret underground lair, these dedicated heroes discuss the business of comics, industry news, hobby store retail issues, and the latest developments from Manage Comics. They are promoters of comics, champions of small business, and four-color heroes. They are the Manage Comics team.
Hey everyone, welcome. It is Brian and it is Thursday, July 13th, and this is Meanwhile at Manage Comics. And today we're going to talk about something kind of fun. We've been working on this international stuff for a few weeks, and I think we've kind of nailed it. We're in a really good spot. We've added a bunch of really cool features. And so today I'm going to actually walk you through how all of it works together, and the different kind of places where we've made improvements so that you can see how it works exactly. We've also added things like the ability to ignore the exchange rate. So if you get an invoice in Canadian dollars from Universal, or you get an invoice from Diamond UK in UK dollars, you can now ignore the currency exchange, and then it'll go right through. So without any further ado, let me just pull up the old long box of comics. So this is a Canadian site, of course, and all the prices on here are in Canadian dollars. So when we go through things and take a look at any of the products, they are exchanged out at Canadian dollars. Now we've done the same thing on our UK site, except we've exchanged everything in UK pounds. So if I go into this Absolute Dark Knight, the image isn't going to work because I broke it, but you will see that the exchange rate is in pounds. So yeah, that is, and this is our QA site. That's why I'm not terribly concerned that that image is broken. If we do the same thing on our live site, it shows up fine. So everything's good. Yeah, so this is a Canadian exchange rate, and this is a UK exchange rate, and this is also in UK pounds. The other thing that we did is we created exchange tables. So the best place to see those is on an actual comic. And if we pull up Adventures of Superman, John Kent, oh, that's a hardcover. Never mind. Bad example. If we pull up Batgirls, we'll see that it's in 520, which is what my exchange table is set to for a comic of this price, which I think is a 450 cover price. It may be I think it's a 450. I think that's what it exchanges out to. So we'll take a look at that as well. So as a customer, I'm going to see all of my prices in the appropriate currency and the appropriate dollar amount. And if I go in here, I'm going to see that this is pending, and we're about to see what that looks like in a couple of seconds. So going into Shopify, I'm going to pop up Manage Comics, and I'm going to, of course, be dropped onto the customer activity. So as an international store, one of the things you'll notice first is that we've changed the pricing. So you see the US price always on top, and then you'll see the exchanged rate underneath. When you go into adjust it, you are going to be adjusting the price in US dollars. This is super important. People always need to remember the price you're adjusting is US dollars, and we show you the exchanged amount over here. So if we were to go, 140 is what you want, it automatically changes it based on your current exchange rate or pricing tables. For example, if I change this to 399, it changes to 520, which is what my exchange rate is on my pricing table. So I'm going to leave this at 125, and I'm going to let the customer know approved. And I'll send that out to the customer. Now the customer goes through the approval process and approves the pre-order. Now on a couple other screens, we've also added that. So if I go into check-ins, I'm going to start over and drop in an invoice. So I'm going to grab a lunar invoice. Let's see. Just trying to grab one that I know I've never used before, and I think this is one I've never used before. Find out. Find out together. So we have a couple of different options down here. We can use the exchange rate to USD or do not apply the exchange rate. The other thing that we'll talk about at length is our pricing tables and how these apply. So on the next screen, I'm going to see each price in both the USD, which is what this invoice was in, and then what the exchange rate to that is going to be. Now, these 399s are all going to take our pricing tables into account. Anything higher than 399, 999 is going to use the exchange rate for this guy. We've also got a couple of exchange tables that I've done for 29.99, so those will show up. We'll walk through how the exchange tables work in a couple seconds. If I change the pricing of this, and I'm going to change it to 399, it automatically updates on the front end as well. So we'll see that that is now 520 Canadian. And then I'll go through and I'm going to import all those. Not going to bother to fill out these. We're considering moving this additional product details step earlier. It would actually go right after check-in. It might even happen before check-in. I'm not sure what the right place to put it at is. I got to work with the team to figure out what we're going to do with these. The reason is we're noticing some stuff is getting imported in that you may have pre-orders for because the codes are different, especially when we start using, Lunar for some DC backlist. And more importantly, Lunar for probably image backlist, right? You may have a image pre-order that's unfulfilled from Diamond that you will in the future fulfill from Lunar. So we're going to take a look at this and see what makes the most sense. I'll just skip through here. I'm going to confirm my poll. So everything is going to get done again with our proper Canadian pricing. And then in a few seconds, of course, we'll see all those products appear within Manage Comics. If I do created and I go newest first, we're going to see these all start to populate. And then, of course, this is the last step. The cost per good and the inventory stock gets updated. So yeah, that's kind of the actual exchange process in a nutshell. The exchange tables, they work, and if you read the exchange table help, it'll explain it a little more in a little more detail. Basically, anything under 299 is going to use our exchange rate. Anything at 299 is going to go to 399. Anything between 299 and 324 will use the lower exchange price. Anything at 325 and up will use the 445 exchange price. When we get down here to USD 5, so I don't want to do a tier for everything. At this point, I'm going to say anything at $5 or above, use the exchange rate. USD price, $16.99. I'm going to use a table, which means that anything between $16.99 and $19.99 will use $25.99. Anything between $19.99 and $20 is going to be $29.99. And then I've done another blank exchange price, which means that we have anything above $20 or above will be 1.3 exchange rate. So we save those things and, they're super happy. I can add a new one. Let's say I want to add $17.99 and I'm going to say it's worth $27.50. If I save that, it reshuffles everything too and puts it in the right place. Just a good visual indicator for you. So in the currency settings as well, by default, we choose whichever currency you are, but you can override that. So I could actually change my Canadian store to show things in euros or British pounds. But by default, it's going to do whatever your exchange rate is. This is also a major important field. For some reason, we've noticed lately a few stores have managed to have this set to null, nothing. We're not sure how. We're trying to look into this. What the symptom you'll see is that you have no quantities ever show up in your store, and your customers never get their things pulled. This is only for new stores. Older stores probably won't ever see this. If you do see it, it means you've had no quantities for months, because we introduced this back in like March. Um, yeah, so if you're noticing that, that's a bad deal. That's not good. Moving on, let's check out our UK friends. So again, UK, our products now all have the UK pound symbol next to them. So it's just the Dark Knight. Isn't that interesting? There's a broken thing on that Dark Knight file. Yeah, and so in this case, if I go into our Manage Comics settings, so I can go into apps, you're gonna notice this one's red because it's our QA, and that lets me know, do not think that you are in production. It also kind of gives me a warm fuzzy when I'm in QA and I can do silly things and not have to worry about everybody else seeing those problems. So in this exchange table, we've said exchange rate to USD. We also can change this to euros if we want, and then that will instantly change it on the front end so that we see all the prices in euros. We don't have currently the ability to change the euro symbol from the left to the right. That's not really something that we're seeing huge. It tends to be kind of Eastern European countries that have that, and currently we have 0 Eastern European countries using Managed Comics. That I think is basically all of the check-in stuff that we have done for customers. Let me just take a look at some of my let me show you some of my help tickets from, or my so yeah, this was the editing pre-orders, which we've done. We went over in exchange rate, second page. Yeah, so we fixed that one up. Oh, do not apply exchange rate. Let's walk through that. So if you're checking in a Canadian or UK invoice, we can bring this guy over, and we will this time. So we're gonna imagine that this is actually a lunar invoice. So we're gonna say do not apply. So then it just gets rid of that Canadian line for everything, and it's gonna import this in at the exchange rate with 0 exchange rate. So it's gonna assume everything is $3.99. You can still go in and edit everything, but now you're editing the direct price. You're not going to edit the price tabled version of it. So that's super simple, really easy for you to kind of go through with. And then we have, yeah, that's exactly what that story is. So there's a universal invoice that we use to test that. Pre-order exchange confusion. Yeah, that was just to take care of that little number. Improved check-in. So yeah, we improved this by showing the actual rate. Originally, we were going to do it as 2 different columns, but it just makes more visual sense to do it as the top and bottom. And actually, Natalia said she could reuse some code that way, so it just made a lot of sense. Yeah, so I think that is it in a nutshell. I think that's gonna roughly do it for this week. A little bit of a shorter, meanwhile, than normal. Today, I actually have a data meeting with all kinds of awesome people who are going to be talking about comics data with us. And so, yeah, I just wanted to get this out there a little bit earlier. Next week, I think we're going to do something a little bit fun. I'm talking with Craig about doing something that should be entertaining. So tune in next week to Meanwhile. And then the week after that, I'm going to finally release my Chicago trip. So you'll see all the fun that I had in Chicago. You'll get to see a few of the stores that I visited on the way to Chicago and then in Chicago. And we'll talk about where you guys want me to come next. Because I'm itching to get back on the road. So maybe sometime in August, I'll do a road trip somewhere. So if you guys have got suggestions for where I should go, drop them in the comments, and we'll look into it. I think that's gonna about do it for this week. So in the meantime and in between times, keep managing those comics.